Good afternoon, friends, and thank you very much for being here this afternoon. As you are aware, today we have the Foreign Secretary here to brief you on the Prime Minister's forthcoming visits to Russia and China. Along with her are the two nodal officers in the ministry who handle each of these countries. On Foreign Secretary's right is Mr. Gautam Bambawale, who is Joint Secretary East Asia, who handles China as our main contact person relating to all diplomatic efforts with China. And on my left is Mr. Ajay Bisaria, who is Joint Secretary Eurasia, who is our ministry's points person dealing with Russia, among other things. What we will do is I will request Foreign Secretary to make her opening remarks, following which she will answer in a sequential manner, first questions on Russia, then questions on China, and then if there is time, she is willing to answer questions on anything else if any of you are interested. And I hope you all know the ground rules. Some of you may be new here. One question per person, so please choose your question carefully. There will not be seconds allowed for anyone. Pardon? No, one question per individual there. Otherwise, we will have maybe 200 questions directed. We hope to have an interaction for 40 minutes. With those introductory remarks, I'd also request you to put your mobile phones on silent so that they do not disrupt the proceedings. I will now request Foreign Secretary to make her opening remarks, and we'll begin from there. Foreign Secretary.
Prime Minister of India, Dr. Manmohan Singh, will, on the first leg of his two-nation tour, Prime Minister of India, Dr. Manmohan Singh, will, on the first leg of his two-nation tour, be paying an official visit to Moscow from 20th to 22nd October for the 14th Annual India-Russia Summit. The practice of having an annual summit between India and Russia was institutionalized in 2000 with the signing of the Declaration of the Strategic Partnership between India and Russia. The annual event exemplifies the special and privileged strategic partnership between our two countries. Our Prime Minister is no stranger to Russia. This is the 10th summit that he will attend, the 5th in Moscow. He has also been in Russia as recently as June at the G20 summit in St. Petersburg. Russia has been a steadfast friend and partner for over 6 decades. It has been a source of our defense needs, space program, and high technologies. It has extended friendship and support through challenging times in India's history. This partnership is today a key priority of India's foreign policy. The relationship is supported by an elaborate, multi-layered, and very effective mechanism which allows us to broaden and deepen our interaction continually. In the run-up to the summit, we have had intense exchanges. This year, External Affairs Minister Shri Salman Khurshid has visited Moscow twice. The last visit was in October 2013 for the 19th session of the Intergovernmental Commission, which is co-chaired by Deputy Prime Minister Rogozin. EM also had a very productive meeting with Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov. Home Minister of India, Shri Sushil Kumar Shinde, visited Moscow in April. Commerce and Industry Minister Shri Anand Sharma has visited thrice in the past year to energize trade and economic ties and business-to-business links. Our National Security Advisor, too, has visited Russia thrice during this year, while the Russian National Security Advisor visited India in January 2013. The chairperson of the Russian Federation Council visited India in February 2013. In addition, we have had numerous official level engagements. For instance, we have Foreign Office consultations with Russia on 17 different subject areas, reflecting the convergence in our approaches on regional and global issues. What this robust exchange indicates is a deep, rock-solid and time-tested relationship with one of our closest global partners. Today, India-Russia cooperation is truly multidimensional, covering the fields of defense, energy, space, high technology, trade and commerce, science, culture, and people-to-people exchanges. Russia is a key partner for us in the field of defense. In recent years, our military technical cooperation has evolved into joint design, development, and production of defense systems, such as fifth-generation fighters and multi-role transport aircraft. Earlier this year, we received our stealth frigate, the INS Trikand, and we are now awaiting the commissioning of the INS Vikramaditya next month. Our armed forces are holding the Indra 2013 exercise in Rajasthan as we speak. The Kudankulam nuclear power plant exemplifies our close cooperation in the field of nuclear energy. The Unit 1 of the Kudankulam nuclear power plant has been completed and attained criticality in July this year. Unit 2 at Kudankulam should be ready in the first half of 2014. On Units 3 and 4, our companies are finalizing documents. Last year witnessed a 24.5% rise in bilateral trade, crossing US dollars 11 billion in 2012 for the first time. Investment is also emerging as an important focus of our bilateral ties. Russia is an important partner in the field of hydrocarbons, and OVL is participating in 2 projects as 20% partner in the Sakhalin-1 project and as 100% owner and operator of Imperial Energy in the Tomsk region. Coming back to the program for the visit, the Prime Minister will be arriving in Moscow on October 20th. October 21st is the main engagement day, where he will meet President Putin for official talks and a working lunch. On the same day, the Prime Minister will be conferred with an honorary doctorate by the Moscow State Institute of International Relations. As is customary, a joint statement will be issued at the conclusion of the talks, touching on bilateral as well as global issues. We expect a few agreements to be signed in diverse areas such as science and technology, energy efficiency, and standards. Also, on the margins of the summit, we will have a meeting of the newly reconstituted CEO's Council. Following the visit to Russia, the Prime Minister will pay an official visit to Beijing from 22nd to 24th October 2013. This is the Prime Minister's second bilateral visit to Beijing. Previously, he had visited China in January 2008. Also, this is the second bilateral meeting between the Prime Minister and Prime Minister Li Keqiang during the course of this year. You would recall that Prime Minister Li Keqiang was in India for a visit in May 2013. This is the first time since 1954 that the Prime Ministers of India and China will have visited each other's countries in the same calendar year. The program for the visit is broadly that PM will reach Beijing on the evening of 22nd October and will be received ceremonially the next morning at the Great Hall of the People by his Chinese counterpart. They will then have discussions, both in limited as well as delegation level format. Premier Li Keqiang will host a banquet lunch. PM will also be meeting the chairman of the National People's Congress, Chiang De-chang, in the afternoon. In the evening, Prime Minister will be hosted by President Xi Jinping at a banquet dinner. On 24th October, the Prime Minister will address the Central Party School of the Communist Party of China. He will then be meeting former Prime Minister Wan Xiaopao, followed by lunch. So as you can see, he has a rather tight schedule in Beijing. The meetings with the Chinese leadership have a broad agenda and are likely to cover all aspects of bilateral relations, in addition to regional and global issues of importance. India and China have an elaborate architecture of engagement and dialogue which covers the entire gamut of bilateral relations. Prime Minister had met President Xi Jinping on the margins of the BRICS summit in Durban in March 2013. Also, this year itself, the External Affairs Minister has met his counterpart on 4 occasions, in Beijing, as well as on the margins of multilateral summits. The Defense Minister visited China in July. The special representatives held their 16th round of talks on the boundary question in June at Beijing. The strategic dialogue at the level of Foreign Secretary and Chinese Vice Minister was held in August. We have also had the first India-China dialogue on Afghanistan and the first India-China dialogue on Central Asia. The intensity and breadth of the interactions is reflective of the importance that both countries place on the relationship. Maintenance of peace, tranquility, and stability on our border is an important factor in our bilateral ties, and it is expected that this would be an important aspect of the discussions, as it is also the fundamental basis on which the rest of our bilateral relationship can proceed and grow. The Prime Minister has, on several occasions previously, emphasized that there is sufficient space in the world for both India and China to meet their developmental aspirations. Therefore, even as we pursue our economic and social goals, we have expanded our bilateral ties. In particular, economic exchanges have emerged as an important underpinning of our bilateral relations. Both India and China aim to achieve their commonly set target of $100 billion in terms of bilateral trade by 2015 and are striving to ensure balance of trade flows. The possibility of Chinese investment in India through the mechanism of an industrial park is being explored. During the visit of Prime Minister to Beijing, the second meeting of the India-China CEOs Forum is also taking place, and PM Li Keqiang are expected to receive the recommendations of the CEOs to expand economic linkages. 2014 is the 60th anniversary of the enunciation of Panchsheel and has been designated as the year of India-China friendly exchanges. Measures relating to people-to-people exchanges during the next year are also areas where we see possibilities of greater cooperation. The first India-China Media Forum was successfully held in New Delhi, and we intend to have this as an annual feature. We are also pursuing avenues of cultural cooperation. At the culmination of the visit, a joint statement will be issued summarizing the major areas in our bilateral ties. It is also expected that some agreements would be signed on issues which we are currently working on and hope to conclude during the visit. Both the visit to Russia and to China manifest the priority we place on regular high-level interactions in our engagements with these two very important countries.
We will now open the floor for questions relating to Russia. So let's focus right now on Russia. Yes, Rajiv?
Madam Foreign Secretary, we are keen on acquiring on lease second nuclear submarine from Russia. What is the status, whether this deal is going to be finalized during this summit? And are you going to invoke the warranty clause with respect to INS Sindhu Rakshak, which expires in January 2014? Thank you.
Rajiv, before I give this question to the Foreign Secretary to respond, I'd like to know which of those, if you ask two, we will choose one. I've already said that. So please be very clear. Just choose one question. Which one? Submarines. Submarine. Yeah. No.
As you are all aware, defense cooperation is an important pillar of our multifaceted, special and privileged strategic partnership based on long-standing and time-tested friendship over 6 decades. This cooperation is progressing ahead to mutual satisfaction, and we expect this to continue to be the case.
No, fine. Yes, sir. Right. Just a minute. We will ask this.
Ma'am, I'm sorry, I didn't get your point about the deal on energy efficiency. I cannot imagine any agreement on energy efficiency. Could you please just a little bit make this point like a little bit broader? Thank you very much.
On energy efficiency,
Yes. You said Russia and India would sign the agreement on energy efficiency. I cannot understand what is the agreement on efficiency. I'm
right.
sorry.
I'm going to
Thank
ask
you.
my Joint Secretary to elaborate.
Well, exactly what the name suggests. There is an agreement under discussion on cooperation between the two sides in the area of energy efficiency, and that includes exchange of technologies, exchange of information, and exchange of experts to have greater effectiveness in terms of mutual cooperation. This is under discussion.
Dr. Awad?
Thank you, Akbar. Madam, my question is regarding the regional security among, this is one of the prime important for the, especially post 2014, how the India assist this regional security, especially in Afghanistan, after the, with the two major power. Thank you.
As very close strategic partners, Russia and India consult each other on all issues of mutual interest. What will happen in Afghanistan, especially in the context of the drawdown of forces in 2014, is something that is of great interest to both Russia and to India. And we continue to consult very closely with each other on this subject at various levels, including at my level.
Thank you. Ms. Singh, RIA Novosti, Russian news agency. So my question is regarding SCO, Shanghai Cooperation Organization. So lately, Russian Minister of Foreign Affairs has told, after the meeting with Mr. Khurshid, that the Indian request to become member of the SCO is being already processed. So is the Indian participation in this Shanghai Cooperation Organization is on the agenda of this summit? Thank you very much.
I would not like to preempt what is on the agenda and what is not. We are already observers at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and we will see how our participation goes in the future.
Yes.
Известия, Russian newspaper. Your Excellency, you told us that some negotiations will happen according to Unit 3 and 4 of Kudankulam. Can you explain what level of negotiations? Are you going to sign a contract, or when we should expect the signing of this contract?
As you are aware, an intergovernmental agreement on cooperation in the peaceful uses of nuclear energy, including the nuclear power plant at Kudankulam, already exists. Contracts for specific units are concluded at the level of companies. And our companies are in discussion on Kudankulam 3 and 4. We hope to conclude specific contracts in the near future.
Yes, Ranjit.
You referred to, in your opening remarks, about multi-role transport aircraft, and also there is a plan to co-produce passenger transport aircraft. So what is the status of these two major projects between India and Russia?
Well, as I have indicated, defense cooperation is one of the very important aspects. As you would be knowing, over the past couple of years, Russia has delivered a nuclear-powered submarine, 3 world-class stealth frigates, Su-30 MKI fighters, T-90 tanks, and other equipment to our armed forces. We are making good progress on our joint development and production projects, such as the 5th generation fighter aircraft and the multi-role transport aircraft.
Yeah, that's what she said. We're making good progress. Yeah.
Ma'am, trade and the economy and trade have been an area that has been a bit of a problem in bilateral relations. Are there any new initiatives that are happening on this visit that will enhance the levels of bilateral trade?
As a matter of fact, I don't agree that it has been an area of problems. This is one of the areas that has seen excellent progress, because India-Russia trade grew from $8.85 billion in 2012 to $11.04 billion in, and this has represented a growth of 24.5% over the past 1 year. If this pace is maintained, our trade could cross $20 billion in 2015. So you're aware that the global economic environment remains difficult, and this has affected trade with many of our other partners. But notwithstanding this slowdown in the global economic environment, our trade with Russia has actually grown by 24.5%. So this is something that we look forward to continuing to sustain. And there are various other areas that require more focused attention. We need more active business-to-business relations. Efforts by both countries to liberalize the trade environment are on. We appreciate the fact that there's probably a need for better flow of information between our businesses about each other's capabilities, achievements, and opportunities. We have suggested a comprehensive economic cooperation agreement between India and the Customs Union of Belarus, Kazakhstan, and Russia, which we hope would be initiated soon. Mutual investment is an emerging area between companies in India and Russia in areas such as chemicals, pharmaceuticals, automobiles, telecommunications, infrastructure, fertilizers, and energy, to name a few areas. So we see this as something that is developing very well and continues to be a promising area.
Naz?
Ma'am, you were talking about cooperation with Russia in hydrocarbons. Do you expect any new agreements during the visit in this regard?
Russia is a major energy producer, while India is one of the fastest growing energy consumers. ONGC Videsh Limited has large investments in Sakhalin-1 and Tomsk and is considering new investment opportunities in oil and gas, in projects in Siberia, in Russia's Far East, and in the Arctic shelf, with companies such as Rosneft, Gazprom, and Novatek, and we are hoping to have successful conclusion of these endeavors when the time is right. So energy cooperation, whether it is nuclear energy or oil and gas sectors, are an important dimension of our strategic partnership. In the oil and gas sectors, cooperation has been progressing very well, but newer areas definitely need to be explored. We have brought to the Russian side's attention ONGC OVL's keen interest in newer projects, including joint exploration of the Russian Arctic zone, which is very rich in minerals. Many of these issues were discussed in the working group meeting on energy, which met on the eve of the last IGC earlier this month. So being large investments and long gestation projects, these kinds of transactions do consume time as well as a lot of effort. You may also be aware that our companies have recently signed long-term deals in supply of LNG to India. Both sides are keen to continue and deepen this aspect.
I don't see anyone else on Russia, so, oh, yes. Just a minute.
Ma'am, you said about Kudankulam 3 and 4, that in the near future. That near future, does it include during the visit now? And what about the concerns expressed by Russian companies or the liability clause in the Nuclear Liability Act?
Near future means near future. Let's see, because the companies continue to be in discussion. And all these issues continue to be in technical and legal discussions, whether they are liability issues, financial issues, insurance issues, these continue to be in discussion.
I think we will now move to questions on the other topic and Prime Minister's other visit, that is to China. Are there any questions?
Madam, this side. This side. In last visit of Li Keqiang to Delhi, we were made to understand that Tibet was the issue that was raised by China to put in the joint statement. So, do you think, are you prepared to talk anything about Tibet in this visit of Prime Minister Manmohan Singh to China?
India's stand on Tibet is really well known, and there's been no change in this. So I don't see what your question specifically refers to. Let's leave it at that.
Yes, Doctor. Mr. Venkatanaran.
We have a huge trade deficit with China, $30 billion plus. And the plan is to have a $100 billion thing in the next 2-3 years. The Chinese have problems letting us in pharmaceuticals and several other things in which we are interested. Is this likely to be taken up when the Prime Minister goes to China? And is there any possibility of India and China conducting the bilateral trade in their respective currencies? Thank you.
Well, you're right that the adverse trade deficit that India faces in its exchanges with China is an issue of concern, which we have raised with China on several occasions at several levels. This is something that can be dealt with by enhancing Chinese direct investment into India. In fact, this May, during his visit to India, you'll be aware that the Chinese Premier had proposed establishing a Chinese industrial park in India where Chinese companies could cluster together, and India takes this proposal very seriously. Right now, even as this press conference is going on, a team from China, from their Ministry of Commerce and the China Development Bank is in India to discuss this subject with the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. And we will be showing them some possible sites for an industrial park or zone. And the same team is also discussing with the Department of Commerce a 5-year trade development plan, which will seek to ensure more balanced trade. So it is quite possible that the two prime ministers will discuss these issues, because this is an ongoing matter that continues to be raised from our side whenever we meet.
Sheila.
Ma'am, there is an element of uncertainty between the two countries due to frequent incursions and tensions at the border. How will India address it politically? What will be our approach in the Beijing?
As you know, there exists a boundary question between India and China. And the special representatives of India and China are discussing and tackling this issue. They have had 16 rounds of discussions so far. In 2005, they succeeded in arriving at the political parameters and guiding principles for the resolution of the boundary question. They are now discussing the framework for a resolution of the boundary question. Let us give them time to work on this issue. In the meantime, we need to see how the matter progresses.
Santosh.
Good evening. Cities identified for this Chinese industrial park.
Not cities, states.
Location, I mean, sir.
Well, there are several states that would like to see this investment taking place. And amongst the states are Uttar Pradesh, Karnataka, Gujarat, Andhra Pradesh, and Tamil Nadu.
Yes, Ranjana.
Ma'am, India has always voiced concern over the Brahmaputra because China is the upper riparian country. So will the issue figure during talks?
As a lower riparian state on many trans-border rivers that we have with China, the Government of India has been expressing its concern on the utilization of the waters of such rivers to the Government of China, including at the highest level. We have actively engaged China on this subject. The Chinese government has explained to us their perspective on this issue. As you are aware, we do have a mechanism with China for discussing many of these issues. It is called the ELM, or the expert level mechanism, between the ministries of water resources of the two countries. We have been receiving valuable hydrological data from China on some of our trans-border rivers. We will continue to discuss this subject with our Chinese interlocutors.
Yeah, Nirupama.
We hear that a border defense cooperation agreement is going to be signed. Could you give us a few details about this agreement and what, I believe there are some CBMs that are being proposed, what these CBMs are likely to be? Thank you.
As I stated in my opening remarks, there are a number of agreements which we are hoping to sign in Beijing. I do not want to go into the details, since these will be outcomes from the discussions that actually happen between the two prime ministers. But let me assure all of you that we will brief you extensively during the course of the visit, including on all the agreements or documents that may be signed.
Gautam?
Ma'am, Foreign Secretary, that Indian citizens from the Arunachal Pradesh is regularly facing the problem of this staple visa issue. Now, will there be any talks on the visa liberalization issue, and so that it can solve this problem forever?
You see, I have already told you that there is a boundary question between India and China, and that we are in discussions at the level of special representatives on how to discuss and deal with this issue. There have been several rounds of discussions, and they have arrived at the political parameters and guiding principles. They are now discussing the framework for resolving the boundary question. Let me again reiterate that we need to give them time to work out this issue. In the meantime, I wish to reiterate the Indian position that Arunachal Pradesh is an integral and inalienable part of India.
Anyone? Yeah.
मैम शैलेंद्र लाइव इंडिया से मैम मैं ये जानना चाहता हूँ कि जिस तरीके से चाइना और पाकिस्तान के बीच में न्यूक्लियर प्लांट्स की बात चल रही है, उसको लेकर के भारत क्या चाइना के प्रधानमंत्री के सामने ये बात रखेगा कि पाकिस्तान काफ़ी ख़तरनाक हो सकता है जिस तरीके से वो न्यूक्लियर पावर प्लांट को देने की बात कर रहे हैं?
मैं आपको अंग्रेजी में जवाब देने वाली हूँ, ठीक है? This is a concern for India. However, I do not wish to prejudge what the two prime ministers will discuss. Let us wait for their talks to be over, and I would be happy to brief you then.
If there are no questions on this, are there any questions on it? On anything else? It looks like all of you were waiting for that anything else. Okay, yes, Vishal, let's start with you.
Vishal Thapar, here, ma'am, towards left. Is there any word on whether or not the Prime Minister will be visiting Colombo for the CHOGM summit? And yes, that's one.
Yeah, anything else? Only one. Yes, sorry. My mistake.
Yes. The government of Sri Lanka has extended an invitation. The government of India has not yet taken a decision. This decision will be taken closer to the date, keeping in view our foreign policy priorities, our international obligations, and our national interest.
Padma.
Mr. Singh, my question also pertains to Dr. Singh, Dr. Manmohan Singh attending or not attending the CHOGM summit. Ma'am, my question is, how relevant is the Commonwealth? This is a larger question, and if it is still relevant as an entity, surely the argument would extend that it would be important for the Indian Prime Minister to attend it. Rather than, some would say, succumb to domestic coalition compulsions, as the case may be, and not go. Thank you.
The Commonwealth is a relevant institution. It is a relevant institution that has 53 or 54 member countries at last count. And any institution that has so many member states cannot but be relevant in terms of meeting leaders from all parts of the world and speaking to them about our mutual concerns. Foreign policy is an extension of domestic policy. I think that is something that should never be forgotten. It is meant to protect our domestic interests. And as I said, any decision that will be taken keeping in mind our national interest, our foreign policy priorities, and our international obligations.
Yeah, Maha?
Ma'am, has any country, specifically US or UK, contacted India about the seizure of MV Seaman Guard near Tuticorin and the arrest of its crew?
The vessel in question is owned by an American firm, but is flagged in Sierra Leone. The vessel was stopped by our Coast Guard in consideration of issues relating to the presence of arms, ammunition, and armed guards on board without the necessary authorizations. The crew and guards are currently cooperating with the police investigations that are ongoing in Tamil Nadu. Cases have been filed with regard to our Arms Act and the Essential Commodities Act. Basic information on this case has been shared in routine course with US Embassy representatives. We have no issue with sharing details with any diplomatic representatives should it be required.
Gaurav?
Ma'am, the Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister has asked if the issue of civilians being injured in Pakistani unprovoked firing, will that be taken up with Pakistan? How will India address that issue?
The question of incidents on the line of control are always taken up with Pakistan. We have a regular ongoing conversation with Pakistan on this. You know that our DGMOs are in regular touch. So if there are any casualties on our side, we do take it up.
Yeah, Charu?
Madam Foreign Secretary, you just returned yesterday from the Maldives where you met several leaders of multiple parties there. There are still some concerns being expressed by the Maldivian Election Commission over whether the elections will even be held tomorrow because of certain issues with the electoral rolls and so on and so forth. What was your sense based on your communication with the multiple leaders, and what is our position in case the elections do not get held tomorrow?
My visit to the Maldives was in the context of the very close relationship that exists between India and the Maldives. You are aware that relations between the two are intertwined at a variety of levels, whether it's the economic level, whether it's the security level, whether it's the people-to-people level, very close and ongoing contacts. India's interest is in seeing a stable, a peaceful, and a prosperous Maldives. And to this end, we believe that a transparent, a fair and a free democratic political process is exceedingly important in bringing about a stable, a prosperous, and a peaceful Maldives. We believe that the first round of the elections that has seen an 88% turnout of voters indicates the high expectations of the people on Maldives in seeing the results of their vote actually being translated into reality. In the course of my visit, I met various interlocutors in the government of Maldives, as well as the political parties, and all of them were of the view that the democratic political process needed to be supported so that free and fair elections could be held. It is our hope and our expectation that this process is taken forward, that it is carried forward, and that we have the inauguration of the President taking place on the 11th of November as provided for in the Constitution of the Maldives.
Last two questions. Yes, sir. Nitin.
Ma'am, Nitin Gokhale from NDTV. Following the Prime Minister Manmohan Singh and Nawaz Sharif's meeting in US, there was a decision that the two DGMOs would meet on the LOC question. Has a timeline been set for the DGMOs meeting at all?
At this juncture, we have no information on a date when the DGMOs will meet.
Last question, Geeta.
Ma'am, this is regarding the Augusta Westland case. Middleman Hashke, Ralph Hashke, has been arrested in Switzerland. Have the agencies in India gotten in touch with the Ministry of External Affairs, and will the Indian government be looking for access or extradition of Hashke?
We are aware of the developments that have taken place. CBI's investigations are ongoing presently, and they will take decisions as required. If required to facilitate, our mission will facilitate.
Thank you very much. With that, we come to the end of this interaction. Thank you.